as you can see, I've got my Gelli Plate here. This is my 5 by 7 inch Gelli Plate. Well used, stained, marked, still works perfectly all right. And I thought today I would revisit one of my earlier videos. It's been a really popular video, and that was the using household objects on your Gelli Plate. Basically finding everyday things around the house for mark making and therefore creating interesting prints. As I say, it was one of my early videos. Production quality is, by my standards now, I feel appalling, but it's been a really popular video. It goes to show that people are interested in using the gel plate and trying to think up original and creative ways of using it with things that they can put their hands on quite easily. And I thought, you know, I don't want to delete old videos just because they look a bit poor. You know, it's part of a creative journey, video making, and so I will always leave those early ones there. But I thought I can come back, I can do a more professional looking video. We'll revisit some of the things that I actually did in that first video, and we'll add a couple of extra ideas that I've come up with in the meantime as well. And hopefully, you know, even if you have seen that original video, there's something new for you in this one as well. And I will leave a link to the earlier one, so you can go and check it out if you haven't already. But as I say, it's one of my most popular ones. My most popular videos seem to be the gel plate printing videos and the brush-o techniques videos. So I thought, you know, this is what people want to watch. Let's come back and do it again, and let's do it better and bigger. So, as I say, this is my 5 by 7 inch gel plate. I've got a brayer. This is my medium-sized brayer. It's just a Ranger brayer. I've got some scrap paper here for cleaning my brayer on, just for rolling off excess paint. The paint I'm using, as I do generally with my gel plate, are the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics. I've got Cobalt Turquoise Hue, Hansa Yellow Medium, Green Gold, Primary Cyan, Cadmium Red Hue, and Primary Magenta. I'm going to use some or all of these, I don't know. It's just a bright selection, and I can use them in sort of combinations of maybe 2 or 3, and they'll work well together. And if we just want something bright and bold, because, you know, that monoprinting is perfect for creating, you know, great bold contrast, whether you're using it for backgrounds or for you know, the actual finished piece as it is. You know, I like to put plenty of colour in my prints. Today we're going to be making a load of prints using various things, and I shall then come back in another video, maybe next week, maybe the week after, and show you some finished ideas for using prints, because people are always interested in that. I have in the past done a couple of those, and if I can find a link, I will link them either in a little card in the corner, or link them at the end or down in the description below. I also do have a playlist for any of my gel printing videos that I've created. I've just put them all together in a playlist so they're easier to find. But for now, we're going to begin. And I'm going to begin with the simplest thing. This is something that we did cover in the first video, and that's just using basic packaging. So, you know, we've got bubble wrap in a couple of sizes here. We've got corrugated card. I've used that before. This is something actually new. This is a Costa, it's packaging for like a little hot sandwich. But I like this, it's corrugated, but it's got a wave pattern, and I thought that would make an interesting mark. So we'll get going. I've cut some card to size, just a little bit bigger than my plate. This is just A4 card, and I've cut it in half, just a smooth sort of medium weight card. And I'm going to begin by popping some paint on my plate, brayering it out, and we'll just make some patterns with this packaging. Next, we're going to look at some textures we can create from fibres and fabrics, that sort of thing. And I know last time I used a piece of hessian and that created like a nice, like a grid effect. So this time I've had a little loop round and found a few other things. And I've got this really nice, like a mesh fabric. This was actually from a Halloween section in a craft store. It was like a table runner. So that's really nice. Thought that would give a nice pattern. We're going to use some of that. Also from the Halloween section was this very sort of loosely woven fabric. I think it's supposed to be creating sort of almost like cobwebs and things like that. So again, that's going to give a nice fabric texture. I've also got this, which is a bit that I've cut from one of like the bath scrunchies, and it's like a plastic mesh. And again, I thought we could either lay that on or we can sort of scrunch it up and dab it on and see if we can create some different textures with that. I've got some crocheted lace here. This is nice, should give a good textured design. And I've also got some, this is like a fancy yarn for knitting. And, you know, again, let's see what happens when we put that on the plate. What kind of impression will that leave behind? And finally, I've got some, this is wool roving for felting, for needle felting. And I thought, you know, we'll stretch this out and see what we get with the fibres, see what design that leaves behind. So plenty to be going on in this sort of section of fabrics and fibres and that sort of thing. So once again, let's get some paint on the plate and see what we can create. Now we're going to move on to some miscellaneous items. I've got some kitchen foil here that I've just scrunched up. That should create an interesting texture. I've got an acrylic block that I've wrapped some rubber bands around. I'm hoping that that will create a nice pattern in our paint. This here is a packet that had some tablets in it, and you know they've all gone, but again I thought that's going to be another interesting design that we might be able to create there. Something that I did in the earlier video was just to wrap some twine or string around a cardboard tube, and we can roll that across the surface and create pattern and texture. And then there are other ways of creating circles. So I've got some little lids, a bit of plastic tube. This is a cork from a wine bottle. This is a bit of foam packaging out of a box. And, you know, again, little bits and pieces that we can just use together to create different types of interesting patterns and designs. So again, you know, I'm just going to get some paint on and we'll see where it goes. So we've created a whole bunch of different prints here, and you know, some are better than others, as always. That's why I like to just, you know, create a dozen or more, couple of dozen prints in one go. And we've got some really cool textures. The bubble wrap, obviously, as always, an eternal favourite with everybody. So that's created a really nice design, as has this one with the wavy pattern as well. There we've got the two types of corrugated card together, and works really nicely with that sort of ombre effect, I think. Here we've got the wool fibres, and as you can see back in the video with this, I went back in and put down another colour over it because there was obviously a lot of white space. So we've got the first pull and the second pull there, two different effects, really nice. Then we've got that mesh fabric. This was the first pull. Leaves, again, a lot of white space. Could have gone in there with another colour, but might just do something else. I could braze some other paint over, could just die cut something out of this. The second pull, obviously, which leaves more paint on the plate. Really interesting pattern. I really love that. Same goes for that grey open mesh. There was the first print, just pulling off the excess paint through it, using it almost like a stencil. And then that was the second print. Again, interesting texture, really nice variation. There we've got the bath scrunchie, and we'd like dabbed off some of the paint and creates like a kind of messy effect. And that was where I spread it out over the plate. Again, that was the first pull through it, almost like a fishnet pattern, and that was the second pull with pulling the remaining paint off the plate. Again, really, really nice. Like the variation in sort of where it's distorted, it's really cool. So then we went on to the crocheted lace. Again, the first pull, just pulling through the lace, just pulled a little bit of paint through, so I went over it with another coat of paint just to create a bit of a background to work with at a later date. And that was what we did. There's the crochet lace, there's the grey fabric. A really nice, interesting, contrasting textures there. The fancy yarn, again, we had 2 prints off that. That was the first one with the yarn in place on the plate. Very bold silhouette, very organic, and reminds me of sort of flowers and grasses, that sort of thing. And that was the second pull. And, you know, if you can see the detail that it's actually pulled up in the texture of the yarn and the little bits of ribbon that are on, it's amazing, really. So I'm hoping to be able to maybe cut this down, focus on some of this really interesting design, use some of this in the future. So then we went onto the tin foil, scrunched it, transferred a bit of paint. Again, just an interesting background. This was the acrylic block with the rubber bands on it, and I lifted the paint from the blue side and transferred it over onto the yellow side there. Almost looks like Roman numerals, to be fair, but yeah, interesting. It does work. It's actually a really good way of creating pattern there. This was the tablets packaging and the string around the cardboard tube. This one here was just the string around the cardboard tube. I rolled it over 2 or 3 times to get more effect. And we've got a little bit of ghosting from that previous print where there was a bit of paint left on the plate. You know, it is really interesting to see when you do a series of prints that there is little pieces of earlier print that still sort of show through. And then the final 2, this one was using the plastic bottle tops and the little plastic tube just to create a circle design. And this one was the piece of foam packaging and the cork, and really like that. It looks very much like planets. Very, very nice. I also do have a pile of scrap paper from where I've cleaned my brayer off, and I very often do use these as backgrounds as well. You know, you could use that and print over the top of that. You could use it as it is. It's just interesting. It's colourful. Don't throw them away. They will come in handy for something. But I hope you enjoyed this sort of reboot of my earlier video, and I hope that you keep an eye out for the follow-up part where I will actually use some of these to create some finished projects. I know people are always wondering, what do I do with the prints? You know, you don't have to do anything. If you just enjoy, like I do, I've had great fun creating this. This in itself could just be the creative exercise and leave it at that. But, you know, if there's a couple in there that you really, really like, well, turn them into something else, you know, embellish them, add more to them. And so keep your eyes open. I'm hoping it will be next week. I'm not going to promise, but I'm fingers crossed that next week you will see part 2 of this where I'll come back and use these in a finished project. But as always, that's it for today. Please leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Check out the other gel printing videos that I have in my playlist, and I'll be back again next week. Bye.